800-951-0592 on this Tuesday. The Dow is up 50 points. Yesterday, we were on, the Dow was up. The Dow actually finished in negative territory yesterday. The S&P's up 5. The Nasdaq's up 30. Gold's up $2.50, pretty modest, but 1880. Silver right now is down 7 cents at 23.78. This market recap brought to you by our friends at YRefi, right? Never probably been a better time to get out of the volatility, Jason, that is Wall Street. I mean, we're sitting there just talking about, hey, almost 40% of all households now need to use credit cards just to pay their monthly bills. This isn't going out to go Christmas shopping. Things look like it's kind of on a knife edge. We're just kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. Get out of Wall Street. Get a high fixed rate of return. You know, we're going to hear from Jamie Dimon today. We're going to talk about the Swiss National Bank lost $143 billion. Yeah, what? Yeah, you heard me right. 143. It's almost impossible when you think about it. But hey, it's a national bank, right? They don't have to worry, right? It'll be fine. InvestYRefi.com. You can get returns of up to 10.25%. Listen, you got to have a minimum of $50K. That's the minimum. They want you to be an accredited investor. But guess what, guys? Go ahead and call, reach out, because they're going to get rid of that. They're going to get rid of that. You got $50,000. You deserve to get those rates of return. If you need to end early, it's not like, you know, when you get into these annuities and things and they lock you in for 5 years. And if you got to get out early, they smash you with penalties. You get all your principal back. InvestYRefi.com. The word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. or 888-YREFI24. Tell them Joe and Jason sent you. If you want more intel, go to the 1360 website, 1360khnc.com, hit the sponsor button, and click on the YRefi logo, Jason. Just that easy. But I don't know where to go. We'll get to Jamie Dimon. We'll get to the Swiss National Bank. I got to talk IRS. Today, the Republican House, in a symbolic vote, wanted to strip $70 billion of the IRS funding that was in that Inflation Reduction Act, right? We're going to add 87,000 IRS agents. And I say symbolic, Jason, because really that's what it is. It's not going anywhere. The money's already been approved. Congress already approved it. But I guess they wanted to make a made-for-TV moment to say, well, if you would have had us in here, we would have stopped it.
Yeah, you know, it's very deceptive every time the Congress passes any kind of spending bill, because they put out that book, you know, it says this is where all the money's needed and where we're going to put it all, and it's all, you know, hard to read. But let's just, you know, whatever the number is that they're going to spend. I'm
trying to make the book fit into YouTube. I can't do it. It's that big. I mean, you can commit suicide by jumping off the IRS tax code.
Correct. And I'm talking about just the bill that Congress is passing, Joe. Those things can be thick, right? Just to tell you where the money's going and why they're going to spend it and where. But it's very deceptive, because once the money is passed to be spent, anything from the president to Congress can just decide after the money's approved to just change where it goes. So yeah, like, okay, Republicans, you can take 70 grand away from the IRS, but then they can just add another 140, you know, thousand or whatever on the back end of it. It's just, you know, it's just like a home budget. You can budget for all the different bills with a certain amount of money you're making, but when it comes down to it, if you want to spend a little extra on this or that, you can just take it from one fund and put it in another one. It's just ridiculous, Joe. It's that's very. I would say it's less than symbolic what they did.
Yeah, and you know what's so funny is 87,000 IRS agents, right? You could have an IRS agent for pretty much every millionaire in the country. They could have their own personal one, right? Because remember, that's what they do. Oh no, we're going to go after the rich guys, right? And of course, Jason and I told you that's never happening. Well, guess what? We got IRS numbers out for 2022, and the taxpayer class shocking. The taxpayer class set the tone with the highest audit rates, 5.5 times virtually everybody else. Go! Wow! I'm so surprised. Even low income earners, okay, these are the working poor, got audited more than the millionaires and the billionaires did. And they said if you ignored the fiction of auditing a millionaire by simply sending a letter through the mail, which classic IRS, oh, hey, we may be looking into you. They said that the actuality of a millionaire being on, these are 2022 numbers now, was 1.1%. By the way, that is the lowest percentage of all classes. And if you went to the lowest income wage earners, they came in at 1.27%. And here's the funny part is there's, I don't even know, 10,000 times the amount of low income earners to every millionaire, probably maybe 100,000. I mean, it's that grotesque. Just kind of lets us know what all of this is really all about. They need all these IRS agents because they're getting ready for this digital currency, and these banks are going to have losses, and it's a bail-in, not a bailout, and they're going to tell you how much of your money you're going to be able to keep. I'm telling you.
I guess maybe when they audit the low income earners, maybe when they give them the new bill, I guess they can, the low income earners can just put on the credit card, maybe. Is that what's going to happen, Joe?
Well, apparently, if you got one of those, and I don't know, and I apologize, but I just don't know, the low income wage earners that were taking the earned income tax credit. Apparently, you had a much higher chance of getting audited if you're like, wait a minute, hey, I'm so poor, I need some extra money. Apparently, that's a red flag, but the millionaires, they don't have to pay any tax and it's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. 87,000 new IRS agents over the next few years. I mean, maybe those higher unemployment numbers don't go up until they hire them all, Joe. Yeah, they need to hire 87,000 guys. The unemployment can't really go up until you get all those guys in there, right?
Well, you're right. That's a lot of hiring. I mean, think about it. I would have to venture to say the IRS may be the biggest hirer of anybody out there. I mean, think of 87,000.
Well, Joe, the guys that get hired onto the IRS, those positions are now open for somebody to get those, wherever those people are leaving their position. So that is, there's a little dent of employment coming in from government hiring. Yeah,
and again, it's just highlights, and they released Donald Trump's taxes, and I'll be the first guy to tell you, hey, listen, I don't blame Donald Trump. But I don't blame any of the millionaires and the billionaires. If you've got a tax code that's written to favor and allow you to take write-offs, you should take them. Right? I mean, listen, I pay my taxes, and I don't want to say I'm happy to do it. I'm not, but I pay them. And honestly, and Jason, I think you're the same way. Listen, I want to pay the least amount possible. Right? There's no doubt about it. But after hearing what I just said, and understanding, listen, every millionaire and billionaire's taxes look like Donald Trump's. They do. Let's not kid ourselves. It tells you that this tax code, how corrupt it actually is. We need to get our government back under control, get rid of the federal income tax, Jason. It should never have been there to begin with.
Yeah, federal income tax is theft. It's unnecessary. How many times we'll have to say it, but Andrew Jackson paid off the national debt. He killed the central bank of his time, got rid of the central bank. There was no federal income tax, and he paid off the national debt. As soon as that thieving bank was gone, he had surpluses come in so large that he distributed the excess amounts to the states equally. So it's totally unnecessary. It is theft. And I just, You look at the IRS, Joe. It's just loan shark thuggery. It's the thugs that do the collecting.
And think about this. I mean, we're approaching. Well, I think we're over $4.5 trillion in federal income tax. It's outrageous, and we're still running deficits that are trillions of dollars on top of it all. And you know what? Here's a great idea. You know what? Whatever you can collect in tariffs and import duties, that's how big your government can be, right? And other than that, let the states worry about what they're going to do. Get rid of federal income tax. Get rid of the IRS. We don't need it.
Well, Joe, it's really simple. The federal government doesn't need a central bank to make the money. The Treasury can print up all the fiat currency they want. This is how bad it is. It's been a while since we talked about this, but we have such a disgusting system with a central bank. A private corporation prints the money and then loans it to us at interest. So when you have the national debt, we're borrowing the money from a central bank and paying it back at interest. The Treasury, our government,
back up. You need to say it again. Okay, you need to say it again. Right? This private institution makes up money out of thin air and then loans it to us at interest. That's the system that they decided to put in. That's what happened after Jekyll Island. That's how the Fed came into existence. That was what they wanted. Think about this. No, we want a system where we can create the money out of thin air, but we want to loan it to you at interest. That's the system we're living in.
Right. And I don't like our government, our federal government at all. It's way too big, and it's stealing liberties and freedoms on a daily or almost hourly basis. But they could get rid of this central bank. We don't need it. They can print up all the currency they want. It's in the Constitution. If they want to print up a fiat currency, they can do it. And at least if the government prints it, we're not paying it back in interest. There'd be no national debt. Now, if they printed too much and they cause inflation, then we can vote new people in to stop printing the money. Because there's a central bank, there's a third-party system, the government and the third party wage war against the citizenry. That's the way it is.
It allows for bad behavior by Congress. They can spend whatever they want. Yes, let's hire. I got a great idea. Let's hire 87,000 more IRS. Yes, yeah. And we'll tell them it's for the millionaires. I mean, think about this. Each billionaire, I'll look it up during the break. I'll give you the number of how many of the 87,000 IRS agents, how many agents could be part of every billionaire in the United States, right? I mean, just to give you the lunacy of all of this stuff and how it plays out. But you're right, Jason. It allows for Congress to behave horribly, and install all these social programs and turn it, a socialist type state, because they can't be blamed for the inflation, Jason. Heck, they just passed a spending bill last year and had the audacity to call it the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm sorry, but when you create money out of thin air, that's inflation, period.
Well, can you name one billionaire that you've ever heard of that's in jail? I can't name one. There's some millionaires that have gone to jail. Have you ever heard of a billionaire going to jail, going to prison for anything, for doing anything dishonest?
I don't think Bernie Madoff was a billionaire. I don't think so. But maybe
no, he wasn't.
Maybe the closest.
It doesn't matter. They actually put him in jail because he was doing what the Fed was doing. He ran a Ponzi scheme.
Right. It's a great point. Jamie Dimon, I don't like talking about him, but when he talks, we got to pay attention. Well, he's trying to facilitate a Fed hike pause. I'll tell you about that when we return. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason. I'm having trouble here on this number of billionaires. Forbes has a list, but the problem with that list is it's done early in the year. We had lost billionaires last year. they had a number of about 2,600, which would mean that you'd have at least 33 and a half IRS agents for every billionaire. But when I Googled billionaires 2023 in the United States, no insider says there's only 725 billionaires in the United States. That's a number that I think is a little more accurate. I didn't think there was that many. So maybe Forbes was a global number. Probably was. I probably was a global number. So at 700, what did I say? 725.
25.
Yeah, 725 billionaires in the U.S. They could each have 118 IRS agents apiece for their filings.
Yeah, well,
so
you believe that? Did you believe that number of 725,
anyone that
Joe?
believes that these IRS agents were going to go after billionaires, you got another thing coming.
I think there's more billionaires than that, Joe. What do you think? I think there's many more than that. I think twice as many. The reason I think that is because I think there are some billionaires out there that have their assets sitting on the side and it doesn't get counted. I think there's maybe 3 times that number, Joe, in this country. And I think that number is growing, by the way. That's just how I see it, Joe.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we kind of think lords and peasants, we would expect that there would be a small increase. I'll say this, the billionaire class had been increasing in 2020, 2021, at least according to Forbes. It fell in 20, look at stocks, Forbes at the time, Elon Musk was number one. He's not number one anymore because of what's happened with Tesla stock and Twitter. But just a little math for everybody out there. Don't be fooled. We know what they're for. And it has nothing to do with going after millionaires and billionaires. It has everything to do to get ready for this digital currency that's coming and to bail out all the debt that they've created, this house of cards. Speaking of house of cards, Jamie Dimon was out today, and he says that the Federal Reserve may need to go beyond what is currently expected. So right now, what's currently expected is somewhere between 5 and 5.5%. So if we get the half of a point that I've been telling you is coming in February, we'll be between 4.75 and 5%. If you went 50 more basis points in March, I think that's kind of what everyone's expecting, right? Somewhere in that range between February and March. But Jamie Dimon said today, hey, they may need to go beyond that. But before they do, he wants them to pause, Jason. And it's worth noting. We have to note it. He's a powerful guy. And he said there's a 50% chance that current expectations are correct. How about that? Hey, Doc, what do you think here? Am I going to make it? Well, it's 50-50, right? It's 50-50 that the Fed will boost its benchmark rate to 5% and a 50% chance that'll have to go to 6%, according to Jamie Dimon. So not only does he say, here's the bottom, he goes, but here's the top as well, which is 6%. But I want the Fed to pause. And you know what he said? We could pause 3, maybe 6 months, Jason, before we should do any more damage.
That's interesting. I mean, that kind of sounds a little bit like what I was thinking, that the inflation will come back later in the year and then you'd have to raise the rates again. I don't see them raising the rates again. I think when they pause, Joe, they're done. I think they're going to let markets go into complete chaos because they can't just keep pushing the rates higher and higher and higher. Whatever recession or depressionary situation is going to happen, they'll make it much, much worse if they keep raising the rates. I think they're just trying to slowly get us used to a higher level of inflation every year. That's what I think is happening. So I don't think they raise them again, Joe.
I'm going to say this. I'm still sticking to. I think March is the last one. We'll see how it goes. I'll say this. I got to see more job losses than what I'm seeing right now. I mean, yeah, we're getting some. Most of it is still tech-based until I see that. I mean, the credit card numbers are not good. I think we can all agree on that. Hey, that's not a good number. And it looks like what happens when 35% of the population runs out of room on the credit card. And it looks like, Jason, that's what we're approaching. When they run out of room on the credit card, that's when the problems start, because then they can't spend anymore.
Yeah, as long as people can make those payments, things will be okay for a little while longer, right? It's when the payments can't be met, and I don't know, Joe. We'll see. Like I said, it seems like this situation is being mitigated very well, which is why I think it's going to be a slow crash, because it just seems like we get a little bit of data here and there, a little bit of numbers here and there, and it just is slowly going in the wrong direction. Everybody's screaming about this horrible crash. How is it that usually when everyone screams one direction, it never goes that direction, Joe? It always ends up being something else, which I think we see we see conditions worsening for a while, like maybe years.
Yeah, you've been talking about this slow grind, and I think that's a great way of putting it. It's slow until it's suddenly. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think when it finally does, when that shoe finally falls, it's going to fall, and it's going to fall pretty hard. But think about what's going on with these central banks. All the central banks in the world now are hemorrhaging losses. The difference is, and again, think about this. Our central bank, they don't have to realize their losses. Yeah, it's a paper loss. We'll just keep printing. Don't worry about it. We'll pay it back later. But you got to remember, all these central banks were making money because, as Jason was telling you at the start of the show, we create money out of thin air and loan it to you at interest. But now they started what? They started this quantitative easing. They started buying bonds. And now, like our central bank, we almost had $9 trillion. We got about $8.5 trillion now, but we had $9 trillion at the height. These bonds, the Fed's taking losses on it. The Swiss National Bank lost $143 billion. Listen, that would pretty much put all of our banks out of business, right, Jason? JP Morgan could not take $143 billion loss. They don't have the money to come up with it on their portfolio. Here's the funny part. The bank did say they had one asset class which made a little bit of money. You know what it was? Oh, it was their gold holdings. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. $800-951-0592. Gold is now unchanged for the day, 1878. The Dow has gone into negative territory. We saw this yesterday where the Dow was trying to rally and it kind of fizzles out. Earnings season, once it begins, we're going to see a lot of companies talk about pressure on profit margins and all these other things. But, we were talking earlier about the IRS and these 87,000 agents and what are they really for? And it's really important for people to know they're really going to be focused in on not the millionaires and the billionaires. It's the working class, the small businesses, the guys that I'll call them middle management, right? All the way down to, oh, wait a minute, I get a lot of subsidies from the government. You're on the list. You're on the list. And when you start talking about central banks taking losses of $140 billion, when you talk about Jamie Dimon coming out and say, well, maybe the Fed needs to take a pause here and rates could maybe go to 6%. And again, wait a minute, I thought you cared about inflation. They don't care about inflation. If they cared about inflation, we would have had interest rates at 6% 6 months ago. There is nothing that said that you only have to raise interest rates 0.75% or 0.5%. That's just more crap that they made up, Jason. It's just like they made up that 2% inflation number. Of course, it's 2% inflation that actually doesn't track inflation number, right? Let's be fair. because that new 2% that they're talking about actually doesn't track inflation to begin with. But neither here nor there. All of this is because they know these debts are unpayable. These banks gorged on it. Our central bank is gorged on it. Our government, let's face it, I mean, we got $32 trillion almost in national debt. It's absolutely unpayable. They're going to a digital currency so they can have even more power. They're going to be able, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to go to a two-tiered system where you want to buy a home, you want to buy an automobile, you got credit card debt, here's your interest rate. Oh, wait, you got money in the Fed Reserve account? Don't be shocked. Hey, that's a negative rate-bearing account, Jason.
That's correct. You know, you talk about in interest rates. You remember when the USSR went down in the early 90s, you know, the wall came down. They had a lot of inflation in Russia. And every couple of years or so, Joe, you would hear the news kind of laugh at the Russians because they'd suddenly have a 12% rate hike and one shot, or a 10% rate hike just all at once, because they had runaway inflation. They were going to have hyperinflation. They needed to stop the inflation that was happening, and they did it all at once. It's kind of interesting how we complain about the Russians and the media here, but and we laugh at them for doing such things. But wasn't that the responsible thing to do with the runaway inflation?
Yeah, and again, that's what you do. We see like Turkey and Argentina. Listen, go back to our Fed meetings in the 70s. They would raise rates 3%, 4% in a single meeting.
Yep. Now it's just too scary, Joe. Just
oh my God, that would cause a huge shock. Oh, we can't do it, right? And of course, well, why can't you do it? Oh, well, because all this other debt's based on zero, right? I mean, you can't do it. It's absolute insanity. The whole thing's coming undone. Listen, I've got this special we've got today. I cannot put it online because it's so small, but I've got 25 $20 gold pieces. I bought them yesterday out of an estate. I don't even know if they're libs or saints. I don't know. But I've got 25 of them, $65 off at $2,075. You go to our website right now, $20 gold piece, $2,135. I've got 25 of them at $2,075. Listen, no limit. You want to buy all 25? You want to buy one? First come, first serve. 800-951-0592. And again, Jason, I'm just sitting here waiting. When is that shoe dropping? Is it like you said, hey, it's going to be a slower grind? Maybe that shoe drops towards the end of 2023. Does the shoe drop earlier? Does it drop in the spring or the summer? Polzar yesterday saying, listen, he expects the Fed to start quantitative easing again before the end of the year. I mean, how high can the balance sheet go?
Yeah. Wow. Well, if they go into quantitative easing this year, Joe, I don't think they will. But if they do, that'll be extreme circumstances. And then the inflation that would come in 2024. I mean, can you imagine, right?
Yeah, it's not good. And again, they're going to have the ultimate power with this digital currency. You got to understand what the Fed wants. So here's what they hate. You know what they hate? You know who they think the worst person in the world is? You've got $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 in the bank. By the way, please don't have more than $250,000 in any bank. And I'm not talking about different branches. So you got to have different banks. But neither here nor there. They hate those people. Wait, you've had $200,000 in your bank account for 10 years. You are a terrible, terrible person. And believe me when I tell you, you are going to get punished when these banks go under and these bail-ins. They'll be like, you know what? Tell you what. Since you obviously don't need this money, because you've had it there, for 10 years, and we don't have, the FDIC only had $130 billion. We can't bail out everybody. Hey, we'll let you have, I don't know, 25 grand, maybe 50 grand. The rest of it, don't worry. We'll give you a promise to pay note that you can maybe get back later for the difference. Believe me, that's what they're going to do. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. Grab those 20s and do it now. 2075. You got to remember CPI print Thursday. Jason and I both, we think this number is going to be in the sixes. The question is it going to be high six, mid six, low six? Just as a side note here, the JP Morgan trading desk sees an 85% chance that the CPI will have the S&P up by 1.5%. So that just tells you they're expecting this number to be soft. That's going to mean that the dollar is going to be soft. I would assume a soft CPI print, Jason says gold and silver prices higher as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking 6.2 to 6.4, Joe. That's the range. I think I wouldn't be even surprised if it went down to 5.9. I mean, I really think the inflation numbers are going.
Yeah, I'm not there. I'm more in that. I think 6.7, 6.8, maybe 6.5. I know there's been progress on like used cars and stuff like that. Going to be interesting though. I think here's the thing. I think the shock would be a number that's still in the sevens.
Yeah. I think if it's in the sevens, that's then you're almost talking 750 points for the rate hike. They got to get it down, Joe. I mean, but by the April number, which we'll have in May this coming year, that number's got to be a much lower because that'll be 3 straight years of 4% or higher. If that number is 6 or 7, it just seems like they're going to cool it off just enough, Joe. Make the markets a little happy. And then we're going to have it come back. And then there you go. That if you want the really fast market crash, it could happen if that inflation comes roaring back.
I got 10th ounce on sale at $240. Silver Eagles at $730. I've got 50 rolls of dimes left, so I've left them on sale at $110. But I've only got 50 rolls left. Then the price jumps up. We did see the first increase in silver premium. They've been falling, Jason. This morning, I actually got an increase in silver premium, so we'll keep our eyes on that. But those Silver Eagles at $730, that's a really good deal. For those of you waiting for 2023, I know we're doing some 10th ounce, some Silver Eagle 2023s. They're anticipating hitting our bullion banks in the next 3 to 5 days. Then they'll ship them to us. But it looks like within the next 2 weeks, Jason, they'll be out.
Yeah, they get your 2023s and nothing wrong with stacking little Silver Eagles or Gold Eagles, right? Get the new rolls of Silver Eagles and the 10th ounce gold. I don't know when we'll have the next special on those, Joe, but I think those will continue. Those 10th ounce are going to continue to be very popular.
Very, very popular, and they go. The mint doesn't make nearly as many as those, but when this initial supply of 2023 runs out, then we'll probably see availability wane. But at least for right now, so far so good. 800-951-0592. Jason's you guys on YouTube. Jason's showing you the 10th ounce American Gold Eagle. We call them the golden dime because that's what they are. They're really, think about this, a dime, but it's gold. It's 1/10 of an ounce. And then, of course, the 1 ounce U.S. Silver American Eagle. Those rolls come exactly like they come from the mint in their mint tube. There's 20 ounces or 21 ounce Silver Eagles in each tube. They're at $730, but the deal of the day, I don't know where we're at on them, but however many 20s, we had 25 20s, 2075 at 800-951-0592. Jason and I are coming back with the half-empty cup. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to talk 6G. Yeah, you heard me right, 6G when we return.